In the vast and desolate expanse of the Mongolian steppe, life was not only monotonous but suffocating. The winds that swept over the land carried the bitter taste of despair, erasing hope itself. An old faded gyre sat amidst a bleak wilderness, the only sounds being the dry crackle of the hearth and the distant cry of the wind. People lived close to a single well, their lives marked by the never-ending cycle of necessity. Gavji Jambal muttered endless prayers to the heavens, his voice thick with hopelessness. Zaisan Namji spoke of laws that had no bearing on their lives. The Mongols, trapped within their dusty corner of the world, believed that the horizon was the edge of existence. They knew nothing of the world beyond the mountains and felt no yearning to break free. Day after day they bowed to the sky and lived without question until the weight of age and life's burdens pressed them into the earth, never to rise again. The son of the old world, a young man with the promise of youth in his bones, was no different. His life was an endless repetition of hard labor. His skin, rough and sunburned, spoke of a life lived without rest. The torn, threadbare sleeves of his coat were reminders of the poverty that held him in its grip. When he rode to the gyre that day, he did so with the same tired motions, his face darkened by the same sun that had baked his ancestors for generations. He brought with him only news of the monotonous lives of those around him, news of the Baldan's fulling felt, of Senda's grazing sheep, of Damba looking for his horses, and Gombo's return from Kangai. It was all familiar, all trivial, and it made no difference to the course of his life. He entered the gyre, spoke with the same respectful low bow to the old Gavji and the Zaisan, and took his bowl of sour milk, silently swallowing down the life that was being fed to him. The thought of leaving was foreign to him. He had no place to go, no dreams beyond the steppes, no vision of a world outside this vast, oppressive solitude. His world consisted of herding sheep and guarding horses, of labouring for others and barely scraping by. He was not an ignorant man, but ignorance surrounded him, like the fog that clung to the earth in the early morning. He had no idea how to break free from the endless cycle of work and suffering. At night, he guarded the horses, and in the heat of summer, he herded sheep day after day, year after year. The land seemed endless, but it was small in its capacity for change. It was as though he were living in an overturned cauldron, seeing only the narrow world around him and never the expanse of life beyond. His youth was slowly being drained from him as the promise of something different was reduced to a faint glimmer of a life that might have been, had he only been born elsewhere in another time or under different stars. And then there was the news from the north, the revolution that spoke of change and a new world. The people were waking up, it seemed. But what difference did it make to the son of the old world? What hope did he have of seeing that new world, of tasting the fruits of that revolution? He, who had never crossed the river that marked the border of his tiny world, would never have the chance to reach the lands beyond. The revolution would not touch him, and in his heart he knew it. He remained, like the others, a pawn in a game that played itself endlessly. His eyes might have opened to the thought that there could be a world outside the steppe, but his body, his spirit, were too wary to move toward it. The light of change did not reach him, and he would die in that same forgotten corner of the earth, his existence as insignificant as the winds that blew through the empty spaces around the gyre. The son of the old world died with his dreams unspoken, just as those before him had. He passed from this life with no memory of a time when the world was vast, no knowledge of the lives that could have been, leaving nothing but the same endless monotony behind. In the end, the revolution came for others, but not for him. The steppe remained silent, as it had always been.